Hello and welcome to the Global Travel Channel podcast show. I'm your host Mark Philpott, and on the show I interview people from all over the world about their incredible travel experiences. Hello. Yes, I'm just settling into the seat for another show and want to welcome everybody who hasn't been here before. So if this is your first time with me, thank you for joining. I wonder how you came across the Global Travel Channel podcast show. Now, before I start the show today, I've got to tell you about the 2019-2020 Global Travel Channel Podcast Awards. Yes, we're having our first inaugural awards ceremony this year. June the 9th is the date. And before then, all you need to do is go through all the previous episodes of the Global Travel Channel podcast show. Listen to as many as you can. You can find them all at www.globaltravelchannel.com and simply go onto the website under the awards page and vote for your favorite guest. Yes, this is it. The competition is on. And voters are in for prizes as well. So if you do lodge a vote, then you go into the draw to get some good prizes. So check it out. Global Travel Channel Podcast Show Awards 2019-2020. Who's your favorite guest? Who's your favorite female guest? Who's your favorite male guest? Who's the most inspirational person I've had on the show? Yes, there's lots of different categories and you can check them all out there. Okay, on to today's show and food, glorious food. We're going to talk about one of my favorite things, and perhaps I eat far too much of it, but that's another story. We're going to speak to a lady today whose life is consumed right now by food, and she's had lots of amazing travel experiences that have brought her to the place that she finds herself today. So why don't we go on over, meet my guest for today. Her name is Stacie Archer. Stacie, welcome to the Global Travel Channel podcast show.
Thanks, Mark. Happy to be here.
How are you today?
I'm doing well. I'm surviving. It's, COVID-19, so we're all in shelter in place, but we're doing well.
That's good. Well, I've got some good news for you today because I promised my listeners all across the world, and you're being listened to in 95 countries across the world today. I promised my guests that we wouldn't talk anything about that virus thing. We're going to keep upbeat, positive, and talk about all the other amazing things that we've got on our agenda today. So how's that sound to you?
That sounds perfect to me. I'm all focused on global travel and dreams and places we've been and nothing about what's going on currently.
Oh, fantastic. You've landed in the right place then. So whereabouts are you talking to us from?
I'm in Orlando, Florida.
Oh, beautiful part of the world.
It is. It's, kind of warm today. We are having unseasonably high temperatures. We're in the 90s. So it's kind of hot and sticky, but it's still nice. I can't complain.
So Orlando is home to Epcot and Disney and a lot of other amazing activities to do, isn't it?
It is. I mean, we're a tourism place and we're a happy place to visit. We have amazing amusement parks, restaurants. There's activity everywhere around us.
Yeah, brilliant. So, look, I'm going to give you 60 seconds to put a plug in for Orlando. So why should all my listeners around the world book a ticket after all this is over and come and visit Orlando? What's the draw cards there?
Orlando, first of all, the weather you can't beat. So no matter what time of year you're booking a ticket for, you're going to be pretty much guaranteed great weather. Secondly, we are known to be the backyard of first-rate entertainment with Walt Disney World, with Universal, and then add to it my passion and outstanding restaurants and food. You can literally every night have an amazing dinner at some restaurant, whether it be within the amusement park at Epcot, which, oh my gosh, just going around Epcot and experiencing kind of their worldly ventures is an experience to remember for the rest of your life. But anywhere in Orlando you go, there's just such hospitality.
Would you say it's a great destination for families versus, other types of travel? Do you think it's a great place to bring your family for entertainment?
I do. I mean, clearly, Orlando with Walt Disney World and Universal. I mean, we have geared amusement parks and entertainment geared towards families, but it's not just families. I mean, there's plenty of places to go to as couples that, it's romantic. It's kind of a getaway. People come here to celebrate anniversaries. There's much to offer in Orlando.
Beautiful. Well, there you go, folks. There's an unpaid commercial for Orlando coming from Stacie today. Stacie, thanks for that. I'm sure people will be including Orlando on the US travel itinerary when we can all travel again. Now, one of the things that I do on my show is to offer my guests the opportunity to dedicate this particular episode to someone special in their life. So who would you like to dedicate your show to today?
I'm going to dedicate it to my parents. My parents are living not in Orlando, they're living in Denver, Colorado. And since I moved away here to Orlando, they have been so supportive of me, close to me, calling every day to check on me and the kids, and just showing that no matter where in the world you live, it's family that connects you and you're always together.
Wonderful. That sounds beautiful. Now, what are your parents' names?
Janet and Bill.
Janet and Bill. Okay, this is a call out for Janet and Bill from your lovely daughter who's giving you a wonderful dedication. You're going to have to send them the show afterwards so they can have a listen to it and listen to their daughter and be very proud of you, I'm sure, of doing your podcast with me today. Denver's a beautiful place. Were you born there, were you?
I wasn't born there. My mom is from Denver, and I've lived a good portion of my life out there. I miss the Rocky Mountains. I miss skiing. I miss, the mountain biking and the hiking and everything that Colorado has to offer. But Orlando itself is a home to us. We're very happy here.
Right, very good. So where were you born if you weren't born in Denver?
I was born in St. Louis, Missouri.
Oh, okay. You're a Missouri girl.
I'm a Missouri girl.
Right. Well, you've been to some great places in the United States to live. That's for sure. I think Denver has got to be right up there with one of my favorite places because I am that outdoorsy guy, and it's the mecca of outdoor adventure. That's for sure. Anywhere in Colorado, it's fantastic.
It is. I mean, there's such an outdoor mentality there. So if you're a person who's looking to travel and hike or bike or whitewater rafting or skiing, Colorado has what you need. It's a place.
There we go. So Missouri, Colorado, or Florida, folks. There you go. Stacie's introduced you to some good places to go there. Stacie, are you a regular podcast listener? Are you somebody that goes around listening to podcasts all the time?
I'm getting more into it. Obviously, given the times, I've got more time on my hands to dedicate to Audible books, podcasts, anything that enriches me to teach me a little bit more about the world. I mean, that's the blessing in disguise of these times is it gets us to slow down. It gets us to listen more. It gets us to answer those questions we've always had in our mind and just have never pursued. So, yeah.
Fantastic. And is there any particular genre of podcast that you enjoy the most? Is there something that you always dial into when you're looking for one?
Well, I'm spiritual and I'm also self-help. So I go back and forth between them.
Okay, so today we're going to talk about travel and food, two passions in your life and also mine, and I'm sure we're going to uncover a lot of great things, but I'd like to start off with travel, and can you remember back to your first overseas travel experience?
Oh, gosh, it was in high school. I was in a Spanish class in high school, and all the seniors got to take a trip, if they qualified, to Cancun, Mexico. And
Oh, beautiful.
From the United States, my first trip outside the United States was Mexico. And I remember it vividly. I remember the excitement of thinking, I'm going to a foreign land. I'm going to meet people who speak a different language. I'm going to learn different food. And so early on, from that experience in my high school years, it embedded in me a need to travel and have that experience repeat itself over and over and over.
Yeah, I was going to ask you about that because I'm always fascinated to listen to my guest explain their first travel experience, because it's often something that shapes not only the way they travel in the future, but it gives them this hunger and appetite to do it over and over again. So when you came back from that trip, did you really have the travel bug?
Oh, well, I remember the Spanish teacher, our chaperone, on that trip, and she got the Spanish club back to her house after we returned from our trip, and she recreated the recipes that we had. And I specifically remember, and this is not really Mexican in culture, but we had bananas flambe when we were in Cancun. And we went over to her house and we recreated dishes, and we lit the banana flambe with a lighter and alcohol. And I just remember thinking, wow, this is so far beyond my understanding of food. But I love
Yeah.
the fact that I had the experience and I tried to recreate it at home.
How many of you went on the trip together?
Oh, it was our seniors class. I want to say maybe 20.
Wow. Must have been lots of fun.
It was, we got into a little trouble because we went out past curfew and we did some things we probably shouldn't have done. But at the same time, it was a great experience. It was culture, it was food, it was education, it was all wrapped up in one.
I'm glad you said only a little trouble.
Only a little.
What kind of impact did it have on you, that particular trip? When you got home and had time to reflect on it and just think about the experience that you had with a different culture and all the food, did you immediately want to start eating everything Mexican and like that?
I did. I mean, a funny story. I went vegetarian for about 6 months when I came home from Mexico, and I'll tell you why. I remember we went to this, farm outside the city in our experience of getting to know Mexico, and we sat at this table in this mom and pop shop and literally watched a guy go off and catch the chicken that was later served afternoon. So I came home a vegetarian thinking, oh my gosh, I can't believe I can eat meat. However,
Right.
got over that and brought the bigger picture back to my life. And it has influenced me because, it's about getting out of your comfort zone. It's about meeting people that may not speak your language, may not have the houses you have or the routines you have, and learning from them about their life. And that to me is what's golden about travel. It's the experience. And then somehow when you come back to your home, you're changed. There was something that affected you. It could be a conversation you had, it could be an entree you had, it could be, a scenery that struck you, whatever it is. But what you do with travel and you bring it home, that's the glory of making the trip worth everything. And you can't measure that up against anything you can pay for. I think travel does something to us and grows us in ways we could never get monetarily through anything we can buy at a store.
You're making my job very easy here. I think I'll just shut up for the next hour and you can talk about travel. it's it's beautifully articulated, and I want to ask you this because you're going to be amazed by this, but we've actually got a dear friend of mine who's listening to the show today who's in Cancun, Mexico. So
Oh,
shout out to Luisa Gonzalez who's listening to us, and my dear friend over there who's been on my show before. And she's probably sitting there ask her this question about Cancun and see if she's answered. Do you remember where you stayed in Cancun?
oh man, you're talking. I'm almost 50, and you're talking about when I was 18. I have no clue.
You have no clue where it was.
No clue. I do remember it was, a nice hotel, a safe hotel, and we all had roommates, and
Was it down by the beach?
it was near the beach. Yes,
Yeah.
yes. And it worked out well. We were able to get to the market and look at the food locally grown, and we were able to experience the restaurants, and then we were able to hang out at the beach, and then of course with the culture we had to go to Tulum and look at the Mayan temples and
Yep.
all that. So yes.
Yeah, wonderful. So Mexico holds a dear place in your heart by the sound of it.
It does, and I'll tell you what, one of my favorite cuisines is Mexican food.
Yeah.
Probably make a Mexican dish or a spicy dish maybe 3 nights out of a week.
Oh, wonderful. It's really influenced your life going forward, huh?
It has.
Yeah, brilliant. Well, we're going to talk about some other travel spots because I'm really interested to hear about some of the other places you've been to around the world. And I also want to talk about how those places and the food that you've experienced in those places have influenced you, just like you've spoken now about Mexico. But before we get there, I'm going to throw at you throughout the show today a couple of quick quiz questions that I'm going to get you to answer off the spot. So the first one is in relation to what you've just been talking about, really. I'd like you to give me 4 words that are unrelated, and they don't have to be made into a sentence, but 4 words that are 4 words that you can share with my audience today that define travel for you.
Oh, wow. You're putting me on the spot. So, travel is an escape. So,
Escape. Yeah, I like that. That's good. Mm-hmm.
and travel is an education.
Yes.
You learn something when you travel. Travel is spiritual in the fact that it allows you to realize we're of many different races and religions, but we're all united in love and God. So I think spiritual would be my third word.
Mm.
Fourth word would be culture.
Culture, yeah.
Yeah, the fact that we're so diverse. We're not all uniform. We're not all doing the same thing, talking the same way, eating the same thing, doing the same thing. The fact that you can travel to different destinations and you can learn something about a person's life that's from ours.
Mm. That's so true, and those are great words to describe it. I've asked a number of my guests that question now. I'm surprised that the word humbling hasn't come up, because I think when we travel in lots of different circumstances, it humbles us in different ways in terms of being grateful for what we have back at home when we go to certain places, but also making us understand how we fit into the big wide world out there, and that there's many of us that are connected for all kinds of different reasons, right?
Oh, absolutely. I think one of my favorite trips I made was in 2014. My son was in a soccer league in Colorado, and so he was big into soccer, and the World Cup was happening in Rio de Janeiro.
Mm.
And so we made a trip, and I got tickets to see one of the World Cup games. It wasn't even the U.S. playing in it. I believe it was Uruguay and one other, I can't remember. But we were sitting in this stadium and watching a soccer game, which we understood the game. We just didn't understand the chants of the people around us, the songs they were singing, what they were saying. But they all had smiles on their face, and it was clear, we were united in the fact that we were rooting for a sport that we all universally understood. But the humbling experience of that is we were strangers in this stadium, and you step back and you say, wow, that's pretty cool.
Yeah.
Go and watch a sporting event in a completely different country where we're around people who don't even speak our language, and they're smiling and they're cheering and they're singing and they're rooting on their team.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You're a fantastic mother taking your son to a World Cup soccer match.
Well, I set the bar high. So I have 3 kids, and I had to do that. I did that with my first one. So now I have to follow up with the other 2 as well.
Wow, what are the sports the other ones are doing?
Well, so my daughter, who's my next in line, she's more into the cooking and the culture like I am. She's not so much into sports.
Yeah.
I took her to Paris
Yeah.
birthday, and we went and made a short jaunt over to London. So we did Paris and London to celebrate her 10th birthday. And you know what? She enjoyed the bistros, the Eiffel Tower, the art. That was more her speed.
Yeah. Wow, you are setting the benchmark very, very high here. Very high. And what about the last one?
Oh, that's funny. So the last one, Everything has come in his way. I feel so bad for him.
Right.
Luke,
Yeah.
on his 10th birthday, he was supposed to go somewhere, but we were in the middle of a move and we were in the middle of some chaos, so we delayed it.
Yeah.
It's this summer. He's supposed to go to Switzerland and Austria and northern Italy. But of course, we're not supposed to talk about this. So I feel bad for Luke. Luke has yet to have his, 10-year-old worldly trip.
Wow. Well, I'll tell you what, I have a positive vibe coming out that everything's going to be okay, and Luke's going to get to live his dream trip overseas. So let's see. He has to live up to the others' expectations, that's for sure.
Absolutely.
Fantastic. Well, I'll tell you what, if you want to have any more children, I'm happy to come into the family if you want to take me on a trip somewhere.
No, Mark, you have to be 10, and there's no way to reverse your age. The 10th birthday thing.
Yeah, fantastic. Okay, well, let's start talking about combining travel with food, and you've already mentioned some of the amazing places you've been to around the world. Tell us about the food experiences that you've had when you've traveled, and some of the ones that really stick out in your mind.
So I've been fortunate enough to visit probably 6 or 7 different countries. And I already spoke of Brazil. And to me, one of my favorite things about Brazil was waking up in the morning and walking from our hotel down this cobblestone road to a cafe and eating with the locals. That's what I wanted to do. I didn't want to eat at the hotel. I wanted to venture out and eat with the locals. And
Yep.
what I found out about Rio de Janeiro is a lot of them enjoy these breads in the morning. They're like cheese breads. They're called pão de queijo, if I'm saying that right.
Right.
We'd go and we'd get this great white pastry bag filled with a dozen of these little cheese balls and some coffee, and we'd enjoy it. And so, those are some of the memories, is just like immersing myself in what people traditionally eat for breakfast, not the Americana breakfast at the hotel, but really getting out and kind of being a part of the culture. So Brazil meant a lot to me. I came home and we actually tried to bring some of those cheese breads home. And 3 days later, they were just stale and they didn't have the same experience. To that point, I did my research and I looked up recipes and I studied kind of the technique in making these, and I've since then been able to make them pretty regularly for my son and telling him all about, hey, remember the cheese bread we had in Brazil? I'm making that tonight. So it brought it home.
Well, that's really cool. I like the way that you do that, because a lot of people, well, there's a couple of things I want to say in regards to what you just mentioned. The first one is, unfortunately, some people go away traveling and they go, oh, I can't get what I eat at home here. I want something, I want something that I eat at home. But most of the fun is about immersing yourself in the local cuisine and trying what's on offer, isn't it?
To me, that's number one. I know there's excursions, there's scuba diving, there's horseback riding, there's, shows to see, things like that. But my favorite thing, my heart is all in the food. I want to experience it locally.
Yeah. And I love the way that you come home and then you adopt it into your lifestyle. You just don't do it for a week or so because it's the trendy thing to do. You actually keep it going throughout, and you have those meals regularly, on a regular basis.
Well, and I share them with the rest of the family who didn't get to go on that trip. And so in the case of Brazil, Jake and I coming home and sharing with his brother and sister, hey, we actually had these. Let us tell you the story. And so it's spreading kind of that experience to others. And that's what I love doing. And I've founded a food blog to do that very same thing, is share the travel, share the recipes, get them out there so people can kind of go beyond their average Americana food and really appreciate what the world has to offer.
Yeah, great. Now, other than Brazil, what's another country you've been to where you've had that same experience with food?
Oh, name it. London. I think the London pubs are the best place to get fish and chips. There's nothing like a London pub for fish and chips.
Yeah.
And I've tried to recreate that at home, and I have to say, hats off to London. There's no recreation of their fish and chips.
Well, it's also the atmosphere, isn't it? I think in terms of that whole experience, and this is what food is so tremendous at doing, is because where you're enjoying that food, and whether it be the ambience, the crowd, the setting, whatever, that even the fact that you're on holiday and you're enjoying that probably in a less stressed environment because you're on holiday, it all means a different thing. But I think you can't walk into a London pub and have that experience anywhere else in the world. It's just very unique, right?
It's so unique.
Mm.
And so I'm the type of person where I go to London, I'm not looking for the fancy 4-star restaurant. I'm looking for the really good pub with really good fish and chips.
Mm. Absolutely. So you've tried it at home, but it didn't work, Stacie.
Well, okay, so my recipe, I bought a deep fryer, and I've tried the recipe using club soda in the batter. I've tried using a beer batter. I've tried double dipping with the flour, the egg, the flour. But I think you're right. I think no matter how good the fish will be that I try to create at home, it'll never substitute for the ambiance in London.
Mm. Now, when you go to these places, I'm really interesting. So do you walk into a London pub, do you order the fish and chips, and then do you speak to the chef about the ingredients?
Yes, I'm one of those nerds. Start talking to the waiter, like, okay, what went into this tartar sauce, or what went into this, whatever it is. And he'll start saying, well, I'm not really sure. Let me talk to the chef. And next thing you know, the chef's out at my table, and I'm having a conversation with him so that I can learn as much as possible to try and steal his secrets.
And does anybody say no? I'm not telling you the recipe.
No, no one's ever said no. I remember being in Thailand with a woman who didn't speak English very well, and we were having this amazing curry soup. And I wanted her to explain to me how she made it. And she couldn't speak English very well, so she went back into the kitchen and she came out with a soup ladle and a pot. And she tried to explain how many ladles of soup she would put of stock in the pot. And I was trying to count. Okay, that was 6 ladles of stock, so there have been times where they haven't deliberately kept their recipes from me. They just have had a hard time translating it to me.
Right, fair enough. Now tell me, when you go into these places, and let's take the London pub thing again, did you already have predetermined in your mind that you wanted to try the fish and chips, or how does your mind work when it comes to selection of food on a menu?
Well, that's part of my research before I travel. It's important to me that when I go somewhere, I've already done the research to know what are the most authentic entrees, things that people eat specifically in that area that you need to try. So
Yep.
me with London, obviously fish and chips came up, but there were other things too. There were bangers and mash.
Yes.
Bangers and mash was
Oh,
it. And I made sure that when I was in London, I went somewhere that had bangers and mash and I ordered it. Those are the things that you do pre-travel to make sure you're getting the most bang for your buck on the travel, that you're ordering something that's unique and cultural.
yeah. Do you include the kids in this process?
I do. We mostly they're a part of the process. So they're not so much on the research and the pre-process.
Hmm.
When we go, I'm there with my iPhone. I'm taking pictures of what they ordered,
Right.
asking them what they think, tell me what you think is different about this. So I'm constantly getting their input, and I do that purposely. It's not so much that I really need their input, but I want them to be appreciative
Yeah, right.
they're having.
Yeah.
Come back home and we try to recreate that meal. They remember, oh, Mom, it was this, that, and the other thing that I remember I ordered. And this, it just furthers the experience. It has more of a longevity of your trip when you can get them concentrating on what they're eating and then bring it back home.
Yeah, that's really great. So not only are you the travel itinerary masterclass operator, but you're also the selfie mum that reminds your kids of all the great things they've eaten.
It's important, right?
Yeah. Now, what about the history of the food that you eat? Do you spend any time looking at where dishes actually originated from?
I do to a degree. So, my interest in food started probably 15 years ago. I'm in the restaurant business, so I've always been around food. But I found myself coming home and turning on the Food Network and really watching these chefs, do their own step by step recipes and showing you how easy it is to make these things in the kitchen. So I've kind of adapted just that line of thinking about, hey, I can do this. I can travel, I can bring it back home, I can create. And so my personal menu for the week is based on inspiration. It's based on what's in season. It's based on, okay, if this is in season, how do I use that? It's spring right now. Asparagus is in season here in the States.
Hmm.
So I think about, okay, I remember that, Ina Garten on the Food Network made this amazing asparagus tart with goat cheese. And so I kind of go back to what I've experienced or learned and try to take that into what's in season and what can be in my kitchen now.
Hmm. What was the inspiration to get into the food business 15 years ago? Was there a role model or epiphany in life, or what was it?
I happened into it. I studied public relations and communications, and it just so happened that there was a favorite chain of mine here in the States. You may or may not know it. It's called Einstein Brothers Bagels. And I
Oh,
would
yep.
every morning for my coffee and my bagel. It was like the bagel was great, the coffee was great, but it was the ambiance and it was the service and it was just everything about it. So I decided I'd write a letter to the CMO of Einstein Brothers Bagels, Denver, Colorado. And I said, listen, I just graduated from college. I have a marketing degree, a public relations degree, and I'm a big fan of your bagel chain. Would you be willing to have coffee with me someday?
Yeah.
Sure enough, this person responded back to me saying yes.
Wow.
To coffee, and it led to my very first job in the restaurant industry doing PR for Einstein Brothers Bagels.
What a fantastic story.
Well, I was blessed, and I also had kind of the ambition to reach out to people. And I feel, for your audience, Mark, if there's any inspiration they can take away from this is don't let your dreams live in your head, act on them. You may be rejected, they may not come to fruition, but your dreams can't ever come alive unless you make a plan for them.
Absolutely right. And get down to your local bagel shop. That's what I say.
Yes.
You'd never know where it's going to lead you to.
It led me to a great career.
Yeah, there you go. So tell us that journey. What happened after the bagel experience?
So I worked for Einstein Brothers for about 3 years, and then I was recruited by another Denver-based company called Quiznos. Do you know Quiznos Sub?
No, I don't. No.
Well, it's a big Subway type rival, so
Okay.
sub chain. So I worked for them, did that for 5 years. They grew to 3,000 units worldwide.
Wow.
So doing PR for a chain that had 3,000 units was pretty stressful. It was
Mm.
a good job, but it was a hardworking job.
Yep.
And I stepped back after a while and said, I need to recalibrate. I need to, look at my life. And I got married and I had children, and I kind of just put a reset mode on that.
Yeah.
The experience of being in the restaurant industry and being in PR never left me. So I think that groomed me to being this traveler and being this food blogger that I am today.
So tell me, when you're working for a particular brand within the food industry, does it become all-consuming with that particular brand? Like, is that the only food you tend to look at every day because that's the brand you're working with?
Yes and no. I think if you're going to be good at anything you do, you have to be out there looking at your competition.
Hmm.
And your competition isn't necessarily always other sub brands or bagel brands. It's anything that consumes um, a person's time. So, Starbucks, it takes market share away from Einstein's, or you look at the broad scope of the day part, and you say, who is all out there, who's making offerings, who's getting the consumer's dollar. And so you think outside the box of the food brand you're working for to understand what your competition is offering so that you can always have an answer to that.
Yeah, good answer. Now, you've been in the food industry for a long time now. So what changes have you seen within the food industry in terms of, what we're eating today versus what we were eating 15 years ago?
Oh, we're far more healthy today.
Mm.
There's this consumer conscience about us. There's, people who now have gluten-free diets, they have vegetarian diets, they low carb diets. I mean, things have definitely changed in the restaurant industry so that we're more adaptable to people's health.
It's ironic though, because obesity is at epidemic levels like it's never been before. Yet here we are saying, and I agree with you, it seems on the surface that there's a greater knowledge and awareness and also appetite, excuse the pun, to eat a more healthier diet all around the world these days. Yet obesity is still one of the biggest killers in all of our countries.
It is, and it's sad.
Mm.
But ultimately, the offerings are there. If you want to eat healthy and you're going to a McDonald's, guess what? You don't have to order a Big Mac.
Mm.
Have salads at McDonald's.
Yeah.
Have things that, and they actually are listing due to regulation, the calorie counts next to the menu items. So it's a consumer choice. I believe the restaurant industry has done a really good job of offering the variety and being as health conscious as people want. It ultimately comes down to the consumer walking in, and are they going to rely on, the usual Big Mac and shake, or are they going to go for something on the snack items, or, just something a little bit more healthy? It's there.
So I'm interested to know, when you first started traveling outside of the United States and you started to come across other food options and different nationalities, cuisines, were you surprised by the amount of fast food culture that exists in America compared to the rest of the world?
Well, it always surprised me. It always surprised me to travel and see American fast food. It's everywhere. So KFC, Taco Bell,
Mm.
McDonald's, Dunkin' Donuts. I mean, it finds its way everywhere in the world. It's not just American. Even
Yeah.
though it started here in America, it's everywhere. So that part, surprised me, but that was also the part that I made sure when I traveled I steered away from, because
Mm.
I didn't need to go to a McDonald's in Paris when I could go to a bistro and have something that, is very French cuisine, or go to a bakery where I can have pastries like macaroons and so on and so forth. So I always deliberately stayed away from American brands when I traveled because I have it at home. It's at my fingertips everywhere I go.
Mm. Yeah, understandably so. And I think that's a really good way of putting it. So far we've been to Mexico, we've been to Brazil, we've been to London, and you've talked about those different types of cuisines. What's next on the list?
Well, I've been to Thailand,
Mm.
Phuket specifically, and that was a dream trip for me because I'm a big fan of Thai food here in the United States, but I wanted to compare it to authentic Thai food and actually be in Thailand and order something like Pad Thai. And so that was thrilling for me and to be in a restaurant and order pad thai in Thailand. I mean, it doesn't get any better than that.
Yeah, absolutely. But what's your view on that? Do you think you can find pretty much authentic nationality food in the United States compared to the countries that you've been to?
I think to a degree. I mean, I'll give a shout out to the mom and pop shops here in the United States where you have, first, second generation Thailand and other ethnicities that have actually come here and literally tried to make, a restaurant work in the United States from what they've learned of their heritage from their homelands. So I think there are those places you can go in the US that, they're more mom and pop shops. They're more authentic cuisine and as opposed to like a chain. And so you do get a little flavor of that just by going to those restaurants here.
Hmm.
Going to Thailand and picking any random spot in Phuket and walking into it and ordering pad thai, you do know there's a difference. It seems as if the dish has a little more, I don't know, fish sauce to it, if it's the coriander on top, the cilantro on top. I don't know what it is. It's just there's so much more freshness to actually experiencing it where it began.
Do you think those mum and pop shops back in the US cater for the American palate? Do you think they go out of their way to make it tasty as Americans enjoy their food?
I think they do to a degree because they're trying to make a living on their business. So, they can't be too strict in their authentic paths. Otherwise, they wouldn't appeal to the general consumer. And I know this for a fact. I mean, there's a Thai place I like to go to. It's actually in Boca Raton, Florida. And they always say, well, do you want it spicy? And they try to tone it down for you because Americans are not maybe as adventurous on the spice level as going to Thailand and having something that's authentically spicy. And I'm always pushing them saying, bring it on, bring it on. Let the chef do what the chef knows to do. So I do believe there's some catering to American tastes, and they have to do that because they're a business. That too is a recommendation for why it's always important to travel and really go back to where the cuisine is from and have it authentically.
I picture you as one of those people on one of those shows that people are lining up to eat the hottest chilies, yeah?
I spice it challenged me. I'm one of those people. I'll go in and I'm like, okay, is it hot or is it really hot? And they'll be like, it's really hot. And then I'll say, okay, good. And to me, and they're expecting some sort of reaction from me. I'm like, oh no, no, it's perfect. I'm fine. I don't even need water.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Fantastic. Now let's talk about Seven Plates because that's your latest gig, and I want to give you plenty of time to be able to talk about it. So first of all, let's tell everybody what Seven Plates is, how it came about, and I'm fascinated to find out where the name came from.
So, Seven Plates is my food blog, and it's seven spelled out, the word seven plates. And it was generated off of this interest in providing people with the idea that you can have this big Sunday dinner, but yet you can recreate leftovers to get you through 7 days of the week.
Ah,
At least, proportionally so. So, for instance, Sundays are family dinner days, and you're eating a roast, you're eating a ham, or you're eating a chicken, turkey, you name it, whatever it is, it's always kind of that day for really cooking. And so the idea is okay, you're going to feed, but you're going to have leftovers. And I don't like to waste food. I am
yeah.
those people. It's like if I have leftovers, I'm definitely going to make sure I recreate that into a new recipe, as many days of the weeks that I can stretch it. So it's not about just having a ham and then making a ham sandwich the next day. It's about cooking a ham and coming up with, a ham and split pea soup, or doing this Monte Cristo ham sandwich with Swiss cheese and, doing it all up with the powdered sugar and the jelly. Really reinventing a meal so it doesn't feel like a leftover, but ultimately that's what it is. It's about cooking and then using leftovers throughout the week.
What a brilliant idea. How long ago did you start 7 Plates Up?
I started it in 2016, so 4 years ago.
4 years ago. Okay, great. So you've got a lot of traction with it. What's the ultimate goal with it? What do you want it to be in 5 years from now?
Well, I want to continue my audience growth, obviously, and I've had the opportunity to actually take it on TV. Here in the States, we have a nationally syndicated show called The Rachel Ray Show.
We know The Rachel Ray Show, yes.
Yes. So I've been on her show 3 times, just showing some of these ideas that I have about recreating with leftovers. So my ultimate goal is just to continue to get out there that you can cook at home. It's not that difficult, and it makes a lot of sense budget-wise if you're on a budget to be able to do it this way. It's stretching it, and if you're feeding a family like mine, I have a big family, it makes it last much longer than, eating out at fast food every night.
Yeah, that's a tremendous idea. Now, before we go any further, I've got to put in a request because I've been watching your videos and I saw a particular video and you had a t-shirt on and it had "Make Your Mark" on it.
Wow, you noticed that?
And yeah, because it's my name. And I thought, right, I've got to ask her, I've got to get one of those t-shirts. So where do I get one of those t-shirts from?
I picked that up at Target the other day.
Target! Okay. So watch out, Target. Here I come. I want to "Make Your Mark" t-shirt. That's the first thing I saw. I thought, okay, Stacie's going to be cooking something here, but look at this t-shirt. It's got my name on it.
I wore that just for you.
Inspirational it was, and we didn't even know each other at that time. Okay, back to 7 Plates. I love the idea. I think the concept is really brilliant, and given the situation we're all in at the moment, and as you're probably aware, there's lots of families at home at the moment cooking together and doing things that they normally don't do together. So food is a very big thing. So tell us some of your favorite dishes.
Oh man, I couldn't even begin to drink. And the reason is I love variety.
Do it through a day, okay? So what's your favorite breakfast, recipes?
Okay, so breakfast, I love a hash with, skillet eggs on top. So if I have potatoes and I have some leftover chicken or I have some onion or pepper or whatever, I love frying that up in a pan with oil and then putting an over easy egg on top. That's one of my favorite breakfasts.
Now you better explain for the non-Americans listening what a skillet egg is and what eggs over easy are.
Okay, so it's basically you crack an egg in a skillet and you cook it until it's, do you know the term sunny side up?
Sunny side up, yep.
Okay, and you flip it just for a second or two to cook it a little bit longer, and it's called over easy.
There we go. Everybody, I bet you there's a lot of people out there going, I never knew that. I've heard it a million times and I never knew it. So thank you for explaining it. Okay, next one. So you fried up breakfast, and what else do you have with it? Any condiments?
Usually my spicy Tabasco sauce, or
Of course.
I
Yes.
like it spicy, so I'll add some of that to it.
Mm.
That
Okay,
You're ready to go.
that's a good way to start the day. Now, what are you having to drink with this? Is it a coffee, a smoothie, or a juice, or what?
I'm not a huge breakfast eater, so that's filling enough for me. I'll have a cup of coffee and maybe a glass of water. Nothing more than that.
Okay, so I'm assuming, and I shouldn't be because I actually mentioned let's talk about breakfast, lunch, and dinner, but you might be somebody that grazes throughout the day like a lot of people do. What are your eating habits? Do you eat big meals or do you eat, small grazing type meals?
I am one of these people. I've started this intermittent fasting. Yeah, so I'm kind of into that where I'll eat a big meal and then I'll fast for 8 hours.
Okay.
So I'll have either a big breakfast and a big dinner and not in between. that's kind of where I'm going. I'll sometimes not even have breakfast and it becomes more of a brunch. So I'll eat around 11 o'clock in the morning and then I won't eat again until dinner at 7 o'clock at night.
Okay.
Those two big meals through the day and not snack.
So first of all, what got you into intermittent fasting and how long have you been doing it for?
I've been doing it for about a year.
Oh, okay.
I just found that I guess it correlated with me because I'm a person who likes to cook. And if you like to cook, you want to make really nice, big, fabulous dishes.
Mm.
I wanted to enjoy those and not feel guilty. So I would go ahead and make those nice dinners and know it was okay to eat because I had fasted through the day to get myself to that dinner.
Yeah. Okay, that's a good logic. It's a good self-excuse, I guess, as well, right? To prepare for that big meal at night. So what changes physiologically have you had from the fasting process? How's that impacted you?
I find I have more energy. I wasn't really doing it for weight, although I know people have had fabulous results from weight loss doing this. But for me, it was more, I wanted to do it where it was specifically timed and I could get everything done I needed to in a day, knowing that I had specifically planned a time for dinner, a time for breakfast, and it just led me to a routine where I wasn't snacking all the time. I wasn't, constantly being tempted to go into the pantry and get a bag of pretzels. I had
Mm.
a set routine and it kept me on focus.
Yeah, great. So it's working really well from that perspective, yeah?
Oh yeah, absolutely.
Mm. So what are some of your favorite ingredients?
Oh, fresh herbs, I think.
Mm-hmm.
Garden. So right now I have basil and oregano and flat leaf parsley and rosemary.
Okay.
I find that cooking with fresh herbs is, I don't know, it's just it's not only a beautiful way to dress up a dish, but there's something about it that brings out flavors you couldn't get in, dried herbs in your spice cabinet.
And another plug for Orlando here too, because you're in a place where you can grow these things literally all year round, I'm assuming.
I do. I have my children for Mother's Day many years ago bought me this wooden pallet herb garden that literally I have it out on my porch and it's big enough. It's probably 8 by 4 feet. And I have it all separated into the herbs that I grow. And year round, I have it. So I'm cooking, I go out to the herb garden, I clip what I need, and I'm back in the kitchen.
Okay, wonderful. Yeah, there's I guess a few people are listening saying, "Oh, I wish I could do that all year round," and I don't live in a climate like that. But you can make a little hothouse, or there's no excuse on why you can't have your herbs, right? I live on a boat, and I've got my neighbour here who's got a herb garden growing all over their boat.
Oh, good for them. Honestly, if you have sunlight and you have a good windowsill, you can pot herbs and you can grow them in your windowsill too. You just have to pay careful attention to them and have a little bit of a green thumb.
Hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Now, what ingredients don't you like?
Nothing.
Nothing. So you'll cook with absolutely anything.
I will even sneak in anchovies into my spaghetti sauce, and don't tell my kids that because they'll never have my spaghetti ever again. But
No, I just cringed as well because anchovies give me a shiver up the spine.
I feel like there's no specific ingredient if it's prepared in the grand scope of the entire recipe. It shouldn't overwhelm anything. It should only complement something.
Yeah, absolutely right. I want to make a shout out to everybody listening right now to get over and check out Stacie's latest video because it was really entertaining to watch, particularly in the times we're in at the moment. And if you haven't got certain ingredients at home, what you can substitute those things with. And it's a really good insight to see how some of the other things that you might have sitting in your pantry and how they can actually be used in dishes that you probably never even thought about before. So I think that was a really wonderful video, Stacie, and a lot of people are going to get a lot of good advice from that.
No, I'm glad you watched it. It's, everyone's in quarantine right now, and we don't want to be going out of our house any more than we need to. And there's often times when you're trying to cook and you realize, shoot, I'm out of eggs, or I'm out of milk, or I'm out of vegetable oil. And so the point of that blog was to say, when you're out of those ingredients, what do you have in your pantry that may be able to substitute for it so you don't have to go out of your house to the grocery store?
Yeah, that's really good. And for the purposes of all the audience today, I'm going to put all the links to Stacie's sites in the show notes so you can check out what she's doing, and more importantly, get in touch with her if you want to and be inspired by her wonderful food choices. Anything else particularly that you want to share with us about 7 Plates right now, Stacie?
No, I mean, I think we've covered it. I want to inspire people to, cook in their kitchen and enjoy family time and enjoy everything a kitchen has. I mean, it's my happy place. It's where the kids, sit around the island doing their homework while I'm cooking, and we talk about their school days. And then, of course, we sit down at dinner and we go around and we share stories about our day. It's just, there's nothing more, in my opinion, of a heart of a family than the kitchen.
Here, absolutely agree with you. Now, what I'm about to say is really a spontaneous thing. You and I haven't discussed this, and I wanted to put out an opportunity. If you would like to be a regular guest on my show, you can be the foodie for my show globally. And I would like to invite you back on a regular basis, and we can start sharing some particular dishes from around the world that you're passionate about. Would you like to do that?
Mark, you're so sweet. Of course I would love to. And we didn't even talk about your home country, Australia, and some of the things that I experienced as an American there. So I think we have a lot of content we could discuss moving forward.
Okay, brilliant. Well, we'll do that offline, and we'll bring my listeners into the world of Stacie Archer and 7 Plates cooking in the future, because I'd really like to do that. I think there's a lot of people around the world who combine the passion of travel and food together, and I would like to have a regular slot on the show where we talk about that and get deeper into it. So you can consider that a deal done, Stacie, and we'll nut out the details and get back to everybody about that.
Deal.
Okay, great. Well, listen, thank you very much for coming on my show today. It was wonderful to get a response from you when I reached out, because I wanted to have this wonderful food experience that we've had. It's been a great trip, and your kids are fabulously lucky, and I'm sure Luke's going to get his great trip, and I hope your mum and dad up there in Colorado enjoy the podcast show that you've done with me today. So thanks for coming on the show.
Thank you for the opportunity.
That was the delightful Stacie Archer talking to me all the way from Orlando in Florida. She gave a few tips too on why you should go and visit Orlando. So there we are. Stacie will be back on the show to talk more about food in the not too distant future. If you're looking for more episodes from the Global Travel Channel podcast show, please head on over to the website www.globaltravelchannel.com. There's over 130 amazing guests there for you to listen to. And I'll tell you what, once you've listened to a few episodes, if you really love the guests, go on to our website there under the awards page and vote for them. Yes, we've got our 2019-2020 podcast awards coming up this year, and you can vote for our guests under a number of categories there on the website. So check that out and do that. And now we're also on YouTube. Yes, Global Travel Channel on YouTube. You can find our episodes there to listen to. So no excuses. You've got plenty of places to get hold of the Global Travel Channel. Now, if you love our content, which I'm hearing a lot of people do out there, get on over to telling a friend, a family member, or even a work colleague about the show. We want to get as many people around the world listening to us as we can. And if you know somebody that you think would be an outstanding guest to talk on the show about their travel experiences, then hit them up and get them in touch with me. I'd be happy to talk to anybody who wants to be on the show with a travel story. Okay, folks, well, that's it for this particular episode. My name is Mark Philpott, and until we meet again next time, be safe, be happy, and follow your dreams.